Alright, what's up guys? This is EWS Sports Podcasting. We're covering college football Week 10 preview. We've got a lot to cover in a short amount of time, so let's get started.
Heisman picks, what we always start off with in our preview. 5?
Alright, well, my number 5 is the quarterback from Oregon State, Sean Mannion. People have been taking him out of their Heisman top 5 because of his performance last week, but he still leads the nation in total passing yards and passing TDs. I mean, he's just had a very solid year.
Exactly what I was thinking. I have him at my number 5 as well. I mean, he didn't have a terrible week last week. He didn't have 300 yards, but he had a decent week. And he's number 1 in yards by about 400 yards. That shows something, and 30 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, last week was the first time Mannion has been contained for under 350 passing yards.
4th, I have Bryce Petty, the quarterback for Baylor. Over 2,400 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 1 interception.
All right, great minds think alike because I also have Petty, number 4. I mean, he's just put up amazing stats. I mean, he's leading a high-powered offense with Baylor, probably one of the best in the nation. I mean, last week he had a great game, 430 yards, 4 TDs. He only has 1 interception this year, which is very impressive.
Yeah, he's been great all year. And your number 3?
All right, my number 3 is Jameis Winston, the quarterback for Florida State. I mean, he's been doing unbelievable this year with over 2,000 passing yards, 23 TDs. But last week, he did not look his best, despite the fact that he got taken out early because they were blowing out NC State. He had just under 300 yards. He had 292, 3 TDs. I mean, he's just looked solid, but my top 2, I think, are better.
I think he looked good last week. I have him earlier, but my 3 is Johnny Football. He has about 2,600 yards passing, and he's just a playmaker, and that's why he's in my top 3.
Yeah, I mean, he's just looked outstanding this year, and I mean, there's nothing else to say about him. He's a great competitor. Who's your number 2?
My number 2 is Jameis Winston. You talked about him earlier. He has a 207 QB rating. That's unreal. He deserves to be up there.
All right, my number 2 is Johnny Football, Johnny Manziel from A&M. He has over 3,000 total yards. He has 22 passing TDs, 6 rushing. I mean, he's just been doing unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been great. He had a great game against Vanderbilt. And your number 1?
My number 1, I'm sure you agree, the quarterback from Oregon, Marcus Mariota. I mean, he's just put up outstanding numbers. He has 2,281 passing yards, 20 passing TDs, and he has over 500 rushing yards on the season, 9 rushing TDs. But the thing that's most impressive about him, 0 interceptions, Daniel.
Yeah,
0.
20 touchdowns, 0 interceptions.
0.
I can't say it any better. He's my number 1 as well.
Yeah.
Let's go to our preview picks. We're going to start off Georgia versus Florida.
All right, well, this is a huge rivalry in the SEC. It's a very even match. Both teams are 4-3, and they're pretty much even in the SEC. But I have Georgia coming out with this game. Their backfield with Murray and Gurley has just looked outstanding. They're both healthy and ready to go. This will be a great game.
I agree with you. I have Georgia as well. Although their defense has been just plain out awful, but lucky for them, they're playing Florida, who's 103 in points per game, a weak offense.
Yeah. Next, we go to Lubbock, where Oklahoma State, the 6-1 Cowboys, will be taking on the 7-1 Red Raiders from Texas Tech.
Yeah, J.W. Walsh has a weak 59% passing completion, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Their defense is pretty solid, giving up 19 points per game, but they have not played a ranked team yet.
So you're going with Texas Tech?
I am going with Texas Tech.
All right.
3rd overall in passing.
Great pick, Daniel. I'm also going with Texas Tech. I mean, coming off of a loss, their first loss of the year, they're hungry for another win versus a ranked opponent, and I think they can pull it out at home.
Definitely.
It's a big factor.
So next we go Michigan at Michigan State. Interesting game here.
All right.
20, 21, 22 in the country. Interesting
Yeah,
game.
this is a very even match, as you said, 21 versus 22. But I have the Spartans from Michigan State pulling it out in the Battle of Michigan. I mean, they're 4-0 in the conference. Not the best conference this year, but still a great conference. And I mean, their running back, Jeremy Langford, he has 655 rushing yards, 9 TDs. I think he'll be a difference maker.
Yes, I want to mention Jeremy Langford as well. He's had at least 100 yards rushing in his last 3 games, and their defense has been excellent, averaging 12 points per game. The key for them is they have to cover Jeremy Gallen, who's been excellent receiver for Michigan. But no, I'm going Michigan, averaging 42 points per game. Michigan State's first test, and I don't think Michigan State face a dual-threat quarterback like Devin Gardner.
All right, you're going with Michigan on the road. All right, and now the big one. The Miami Hurricanes at 7-0 will also face a rival, Florida State, an in-state rival, also at 7-0. What are your thoughts on that?
Florida State is third in points for, fourth in in their defense allowing points per game. There's no weak spot in this team. I don't know how you could pick Miami. I think Florida State's going to run all over Miami. I'm pretty 21 points at least, Florida State.
Amen, brother. I mean, Jameis Winston and Duke Johnson are going to be the difference makers in this game. But I think Winston, doing what he does best, will pull it out in a pressure situation. He's done it against Clemson. He's done it against multiple teams. And I have Florida State in this game.
Yeah, Miami giving up 21 points last week against Wake. There's no way they're going to be able to contain Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Duke Johnson, though, is a bright spot for Miami.
Yeah, and now to the BCS, the second week of the BCS. Oregon was able to regain the number 2 spot instead of Florida State, even though Florida State came off with a huge victory versus NC State. What are your thoughts on that?
It's questionable. I don't think the BCS standings really matter until next week. Once Oregon plays Stanford, that's when it's really going to get interesting. Because if Oregon beats Stanford, which I predict they will, they deserve number 2. But I could see the case for Florida State. I think Florida State should remain number 2 after killing Clemson and killing NC State.
Yeah, but they aren't, and that's just how it goes. But that number 2 spot will decide who plays the number 1 team in the national championship.
Yep.
All right, and what are your thoughts on Ohio State? Do you think they have do you think they deserve to be up there?
I think they're right where they should be at number 4. They have a great team. No shame in that. But their schedule's not strong enough to pass Florida State or Oregon. They're going to need some help.
Yeah, I agree with you. No disrespect to Ohio State. They're an excellent football team led by Urban Meyer. I mean, I just don't think they have what it takes to be number 3 or number 2. They will need help.
Okay, thanks for watching. This is EWS Sports Podcasting. We'll see you next week. College football preview week 10.
All right, stay tuned next week for Week 10 recap.